Well, folks, I gotta say, it has most certainly been a full day on this one. Good morning, everybody. Wildman Willie here on a beautiful Thursday morning. We got a little cooler, a little more cloudy weather today, but still beautiful. The birds are chirping. We're at peak bloom on some of these trees going down the street, but again, a little grayer today. And what we got up on the operating table is the matrix. Today, the matrix is scheduled for, well, as much of it as I can possibly get done. We have a top end tune-up to do. We have an undercar complete to do on this vehicle. So plenty of work ahead of me. That being said, these are a breeze to work on. I'm excited to get diving in. We are going to make awesome progress on this today, no matter what. So steps 1 through 25, I'm still deciding that in my head, but I think the first step is to get wheels off and this thing up in the air, possibly. Or maybe I did the top end first. I'll figure it out in a minute. We're still working on some caffeine, but you can see what the headlights look like. Those look great. Got a bunch of new undercar stuff, and all this is just old, time to go. Got some new FCS to go in those slots. Gonna look great with the capital G. I think I'm feeling undercar at the moment. That way I can knock out the hard stuff, and if I get worn down at some point, then what I got left over is a spark plug job, not a strut job. So let's begin. Simple car, easy times, get it up in there. Nothing to get your blood pumping in the morning quite like a breaker bar and some CV axle nuts. Good way to start the day. So this here guy was a 32 millimeter on there, good and tight. Gave me a nice little battle, but not too bad. Nothing I couldn't accomplish. I mean, by hand. On this side, 30 millimeter. Don't know if you'll encounter it that way or not on your end. So glad I figured that out before I stripped anything out. That was a good call. But just everything out by hand, no air involved. To do that, I picked up the car, I removed the wheels, popped out the center caps, put the wheels back on the car, then removed these bolts out of both sides. That way, we're good to go. That'll be free for me as the rest of this comes apart. Basically, we're going to gut it. Just pull one side completely out of it and put a side completely back in at a time. No specific goals as to what I hope to achieve today. That's not the way I'm playing it. What I'm going to do is, beautiful day, going to work on this car till it gets about dark. No matter what that means we get done, which should mean we get a hell of a lot done. So, off to work. Now that I'm woke up, now that I got my heart beating good, my chest up and running, it's time to knock it out. All right, the next piece of this puzzle, as I see it, was to remove the wiper arms, remove the little caps, remove the little nuts, mark how they sit on the shaft before you pull them all the way off. Just give them a little wiggle, then they'll rotate off, bend them on the thing, and pop them right off. There's a very easy way to do that. The reason I did that was to get this wiper bezel off. The reason I did that was to get this wiper mechanism off. Now, why would you do all that? I don't know that you absolutely have to on this application. In fact, I'm pretty sure I've done it around it before. But these back bolts are obstructed by that. Not to the point you couldn't get to them, but I am a believer in doing a few more minutes work with a 10 millimeter driver to have easy access to all this, so I can really get to it, really clean up all this crap underneath, have easy access. The other thing this allows for is now it's possible to see, I mean, barely, it's still a shot back there, but there's my sway bar bushing and mount, and of course it's easiest to unloosen these bolts and to deal with that with the car sitting at ride height on the ground. So if I go ahead and pop those guys before I pick it up, I might have an easier time of, well, dealing with every freaking thing. We'll see though, as I'm doing a complete on this one, I can just get it loose and flopping, and that's pretty easy to deal with as well. So there's a couple ways to go around this, but as you see, that gave me an access path from the top. This side, we got some brake lines and such in the way. We're a little more obstructed, but still it could be access from the top for your sway bar bushing. So there's that. Between the two, I got an access shot in any event. There's a tune-up to be done here, that's later. So all I really had to do was unplug this, and there was a series of 10 millimeter bolts, and the entire thing comes out as an assembly. So not much crazy going on there. Now the car is in what I call service position. Oh yeah, one more hint. This is where you normally put the hood. There's a little plug. You can squeeze both sides and pull it out. That lived in this hole. That's my service hole. Now, you don't always want to put your hood there. It's somewhat sketchy with it at that height. However, this is what I call the service position on the car. Gives me a lot better access to things. In any event, there's that step done. All right, let's take a moment to show off one of my techniques here. This time I'm going to press this rotor off of this hub assembly. As you can see, she's probably pretty good and stuck on there. Do not take your hammer and beat. If you have the threaded holes, find some bolts, some random bolts that run into it. I take a small breaker bar and put that across my lug nuts. Set stobs into the ground, and that's going to hold things still for me. So all we got to do now is tighten the bolts. Tighten that one up. I'm going to get just a little tightness going on that. Oh, yep. See, I heard it pop. Now we're going to do it to the top side, which, dumb me, I got a different size bolt on that one. But that's okay. That's what we had available, so that's what we grabbed. Oh, she's a 14. Yep, I did have a different size than what I grabbed. So, no big deal. Again, random nuts and bolts. I'm just looking for what threaded in there. So we'll twist that one in a couple of turns. And once I feel it land on the hub, like that, let's give it a turn, give it a turn, give it a turn. Believe that's off, folks. And that's how you extract one. And they weren't even hard to get out, and there was no beating or heating or any real cussing involved with that. So, a minor technique. Add that one to your box of tricks, that's for sure. We'll go get the other side done. And of course, we marked which was driver and which was passenger. And I've done that for all my brake components. So everything can go on this car just the way it was. Time to add this part to the stack. Front brake's unbuilt off of both sides of the car. And as you can see, everything's marked as to how it arranges, and all the bolts are where they live. So that's going to make reassembly super easy. Car's jacked up off the ground on both sides. Got my calipers sitting on jack stands on both sides. Everything is ready to begin the disassembly process. I have marked where my current outer tie rod end jam nut lives on the shaft, so that'll help me out a lot getting things back as straight as possible. Done the same things to both sides. I have to unclip this little guy, but my next step should be to remove the sway bar link from the more accessible side, which is going to be up on, well, if I do at the bottom, I don't have to do both sides. We'll probably get in there and do the bottom one. So we're going to bust both of those loose, and then that'll make getting this strut assembly out easy peasy. 2 nuts, 3 up top, snatch that and put it on the ground. Should have excellent access to get my tie rod in and my CV axle out. Then I can get my control arm out, then I can extract the CV axle, and then there just won't be anything on the front end of this car when I get it to where I'm going. But you know, we're getting ahead of ourselves, one step at a time. Alright folks, I just want to tell y'all a little story of perseverance today. We all face challenges, especially when you're working on shit. And one of these is not technically challenging, but sometimes we run into things. So I dug through them pinch bolts for the struts are 22 millimeter, not 21 and not 23. I have dug through every frickin' socket I own. I know I have more than one 22 millimeter socket. I cannot find a 22 millimeter socket in all of this. So that's okay. I'm a big guy. I got big ass arms, and I'm resourceful. And you know, sometimes it comes to a point like today where, listen folks, this job is what pays the rent. This job right here is what pays all my bills. So right this minute, this time of the month, I ain't got the money to go buy a socket. Combination wrenches, sledgehammer, more than one combination wrench. You put your arm into it, and you too can bust loose the almost 20-year-old strut pinch bolts that have been on there all seized up. Got them, might have bent my dust shield just a little bit, got them out, no big deal. I'm wondering how this is going to affect me when I get to the lower control arms. I may have to dig change and come up with a way to spend a couple of bucks. But, I mean, it comes to a point in the amount of labor I just put into that to get those 2 nuts. Yeah. If I had $20 extra, I'd go buy a socket. Not the way it is today. But, let's get positive here. Them are out. That's done. Here's all this crap laying outside the car. As you can see, I extract my struts with the sway bar link still attached. So that's just one less thing to deal with. Everything is laid out the way it came off the car. everything is good and freed up on both sides. You can see you just remove your 14mm nuts from the top, and the strut falls right out after that. So I already got my axle nuts loose, so all that's good to go. I guess next I will do the outer tie rod in possibly while this is together, and then we'll get this ball joint out of here. Okay, folks, it's just afternoon here, and I'm going to call it bowl 30 at that. Just got the hub assemblies out, so disassembly is almost complete on these. Up next, I'm going to get the sway bar bushings out of my way so that that gets clear. And then we're going to blast out this lower control arm. That's 2 big stubborn bolts, and then that's out. Same deal on the other side. Struts out, CV axle is hanging. I got new CVs to go in both sides. We're going to mock those up before we cock them up. Got my sway bar itself marked as to which direction is up and which side is driver and passenger, so I don't get confused putting the bad damn thing back in there. As you can see, I can lift it up and access that front nut real easily, and the back one's just a pain in the ass. But the less it's on the car when I go after it, the better, right? So big bolt at the front, big bolt at the rear, then this all comes apart. And I mean, sloppy floppy, but I managed to not even kill anything. We could put it back together with what we have here. That being said, everything's well marked. Should still be relatively close to alignment when I get done. But right now, it is time for a big old glass of pineapple juice, maybe one of my Mexican snack cakes from Bimbo, and a big fat bowl. Regroup. We'll come back out here about 12:30, 1 o'clock, get the rest done. Oh boy, happy fun time. Well, we finally got the control arm on the driver's side out and on the ground. This is where we're going to have to start doing things one side at a time. I won't call it unfortunately, but irritatingly, in order to get this bolt all the way out, either you need to be dropping this subframe or lifting this engine. For me, lifting this transmission was the easier point. So what I did, I got up top, I got my battery tray out, I got my bolt out of this motor mount, transmission mount, I guess I'll call it. It's gonna be fun to get back into place. And then I got the bolt out of that one. I just jacked it up enough to get enough clearance, just barely to get it out of there. And we'll get that wiggled back into place. That won't be too hard. But yeah, that's what I had to do to get clearance, to get my control arm bolt out. So my next step is to snatch out this CV, and then disassembly on this side is complete. Great, not much to that. Hopefully I won't even have to use my CV extractor. I might, but you know, we got one, we can do it. So old control arm out on the ground, one more piece to pop out, this, and then it's changed that seal. Then we're on reassembly on this side, and boy, am I excited for it. It's about 3:30, there's about 4 hours left of the day. I got in a nice argument with my buddy about big trucks. That was cool. A fun debate, not an argument, but cost me some time. I guess I needed that time to recharge before I got back on it. In any event, there's that taking apart. Can't do the other side yet, as I don't have an engine hoist here hanging this thing. That's okay, we're apart. Let's start getting things together. I'm really having to pull out all the stops to get it done today. CV axle has been extracted. So we got our pan under there to catch some transmission fluid. I should be able to add some back in from somewhere. There's got to be a fill port in some way. If not, I got a breather, something. We'll figure that part out. Oh, transmission check stick. Great, I was worried for a second we were going to have a sealed unit. Never fear, Willie's here. So to get that CV axle out, yes, it took a minute, but not to fight the CV axle out, to put my tool back together. So y'all have seen this in action before. The Jenkins Performance CV Snatcher. I should weld this together at some point or get something like that done. But we take our slide hammer and we use some band clamps to attach a pair of vice grips to it. You grab the inside of the cup and you snatch that bastard out of there. And that is the easy peasy way to extract that bastard and not drop your clip off on the inside. Let's go ahead and rip it in half. So up next is to extract the axle seal, and then finally reassembly can commence on this bastard, on this corner at least. Having to do it one side at a time at this point because of the fly of the engine and transmission for clearance issues. But we are now officially apart with this thing. Only thing to come out is that seal, and I got a bill hook around here, make sure work of that. So, whoo, today has been more of a tool challenge and to figure it out than I expected on this job. No matter, happy to say we're accomplishing it. If I can get this side back together, oh, I'm not even going to say all that. We're kicking ass. We're going to keep doing it. Well, folks, I got to say, it has most certainly been a full day on this one. Let's start with some fun things that I didn't even know. So y'all know I've been working out and trying to get stronger. Yeah, I'd say I've become a little bit stronger. No, that is not Harbor Freight. That's my big breaker. That's the one I've been using for a long damn time. Many a job. A Husky extendable. It is dead. Needless to say, that's as tight as I got that strut nut. But all that being said, look, folks, despite all the challenges and tool failures and shit that goes wrong, there's a reason I'm the most badass tech in the Pacific Northwest. Right here it sits. We got this one side completely together. So as you can see, strut, labeled, sway bar link, better than new, labeled, sway bar bushings in there, better than new, labeled, new CV axle in, still need to tighten the main nut, old brakes reassembled, brake line run through the proper way behind all that shit and not in a pigtail, wheel speed sensor back in and marked. So everything is marked, everything is pretty. That's ready to rock and roll on this corner. Marked up top as well. We're getting to the stopping point for the night. As it turns out, all that's left to disassemble on this side is to get the control arm itself out. I'm interested to see how much clearance issue I have with this bolt on this side. I had to fly the engine around and the transmission to get the other corner out, so that was interesting, but nothing I can't handle. Just one big ass long bolt here and one big ass long bolt there, and that control arm is out. Reassembly is relatively quick compared to disassembling it when we're talking about the fly-in. So you can see I've made a hell of a lot of progress. We got wreckage and shit everywhere. We got tools absolutely everywhere. It looks like Godzilla hit Tokyo, just like I knew it would. But one corner front end ready to put a tire on, the other one ready to disassemble a little bit more. There we have it, folks. I'm about wore in. I'm going to put that tire on that side so it don't look all naked. Put all my crap away, and then we got to go buy some groceries or something. Fun times. Party on. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood, if a little bit Pacific Northwest moist. Forgive the lack of camera footage today. It's a little bit rainy, so I have to focus on the job more than the camera work this time. We're just going to give you some insights as to what's going on. So, as y'all saw, the control arm on the driver's side is obstructed by the transmission. On the passenger side, the control arm bolt is obstructed by the dingus hut hanging off the front of the engine here, and it's pretty damn important. Yeah. So, easier to deal with. Motor mount up top is all that needs to be screwed with to do that. So you remove your coolant reservoir from there, and you remove your 3 bolts that mount the entire outboard motor mount or front motor mount assembly to the unibody structure. Remove those 3 bolts, and then you can fly this engine up pretty damn easily with the jack and a wooden block, as you see here. So that allowed me to fly that to get that in there. I've let it down while I'm not working. My next step in this fun procedure, as you can see, is to install the new axle seal. Now I've already taken out the old axle seal, and you can see it drilling into my fluid pan, so we don't make it too big of a mess over here. But new axle seal is here. Lovely rain. I'm going to lube it up with my assembly lube and get it in there. Kind of challenging to access all that. Use the rubber mallet to hold things in there. Use the old seal as a driver. That should get her in there. Haven't had too much problem, and I can reach it, actually. Let me think about this for a second, folks. I might be able to tap in from the top. Maybe not. We're going to dig around. Either way, axle seal goes in next. That's the next step. A little bit gloomy, a little bit rainy. It's beautiful. I love it. It's not uncomfortable, but I'm getting a bit wet. So, back underneath the car with me. Well, folks, it has been a wet and sloppy hardcore workout out here today. That being said, I'm proud to say I've completely assembled a front end on the Toyota. As y'all saw yesterday, driver's side got all done yesterday. Everything's double checked and marked. Everything's looking beautiful over there. Everything's new up to the axle seal, and that, folks, needs brakes. Marked, painted up top. I still need to get my motor mount bolt nut back on the bolt. I got it free sitting for ease of use at the moment. I need to tighten that up. That's not tight. Need to put these motor mount bolts in. So there's stuff to do up top still, but there's my strut top, looking good, ready to rock, tightened, marked. And here's the passenger side in all its glory put together. So new strut, new sway bar link, new everything, new steering tie rod end, everything bolted up, looking great. Ran into a bit of a problem. This caliper slide pin at the bottom was stuck as hell. I had to beat it out of there, had to clean it out of there, had to relubricate it. I'm going to recommend a replacement of this caliper along with the brake set up front on it. And you can see I marked it so that if there ever is any trouble, I'm probably be the one, but we know where to look right away. Things to do. I've got to add transmission fluid back to the transmission. I need to measure how much came out so I can get a good idea how much to go buy. I'm going to have to check, and my dust shields are bent all to shit. I need to make sure they're bent appropriately to not cause any problems. But up next, we're going to put the motor mount bolts back in it and put the wheels back on it and these skins and drop the car back on the ground. That's my plan for the night, is at least get the butt on the ground, off the jacks, looking like a car again. Then tomorrow, that leaves me rear struts, which is pretty simple in the long run, it appears. As well as a top end tune-up, which I hope the weather will let me get to. If not, it doesn't have a misfire in it right now. It'll be okay until another afternoon. But I intend to get it all done. So there it is. Woo! Working in the sloppiness. Getting it done, knocking it out. Payday coming though, and I'm excited for this one. Well, I just kept hammering, and now it's about sunset. It's a pretty sunset. It's nice looking out here. And I'm pleased to report that I'm at the very bottom of my bolt cup. The only one left in it is one I grabbed from somewhere else. It ain't part of this car. So we've been through. We got the wiper mechanism and bezel all installed all the way across. Got our motor mounts retightened, all bolted up, good. Everything marked. That's all marked. Got the coolant reservoir back in. Again, everything marked. All that's left to do now is pop the plastic cap back over that wiper mechanism, and I got 2 nuts left to go on the wiper arms. I'm gonna wipe some of this crap off the bottom of the windshield where no one will ever see it again. And that leaves me a tune-up on it, ignition tomorrow, which is quick and easy. And that leaves me struts on the rear of it tomorrow. But it looks like everything went back exactly where it was supposed to so far. There's still some undercar plastics to be reassembled on the vehicle. That'll take a few minutes. I may not get done with that tonight. We're about at a stopping point. I'm going to pop that bezel on it and get the wheels on it. See about letting it on the ground. Not going to put the battery back in yet to remind me to add transmission fluid to this vehicle. But there she is. Undercar complete on the front half of that. More to go. Look at that, folks. The Matrix is sitting on the ground. I have not put the battery in it as I discussed, but that's all that's left. She's looking freaking great. My alignment is most definitely out. That happens every freaking time, but no doubt about it. I mean, what did I expect? That's how it goes. That being said, the car is sitting on the ground. She looks happy. She's sitting a little higher than it was on the front. The rear is going to come up with them new struts tomorrow. So, got it done. Time to put the tools away. I'll have plenty of time for test and tune tomorrow, I hope. Get that top end done, get the rear end done. Good thing there ain't a whole lot in that rear end. Good morning, everybody. It's nice and cool and wet and raining out here in Eugene. Oh, it's all nice. We're going to keep the dust down at least today. No giant puddles so far. Should be all right. And we're back on the Matrix. Today's job is relatively simple compared to the last couple of days' jobs. The rear struts, which so far look like it ain't going to be no real problem here. Your first step to that is to remove all the hard plastic interior and spare tire cargo management from the rear of the vehicle, which is just a matter of a bunch of 10 millimeter and screws and such. And then you have full exposure to the top half of your strut mount assemblies, so that's real easy to get to. I like the sound of that. Should be just a single bolt on the bottom. Here's our big pile of plastics. I'm probably going to hose this crap off for them before I reinstall it all. I was out here getting rained on anyway. Might as well take the opportunity to knock some dirt off for them. Not going to go too overboard with that, but you know, just a general sprucing up. We might also blow all this crap out. Folks, it's a kid mobile, and it has baby seats in the back, all right? So shit gets back here. We'll try to grab some of this crap out, dig it out a bit for them. But the strut's going back in. FCS to the rescue again. As you see, I'll put this shit on anything, folks. That's how I feel about it. So we got 2 new assemblies. They are marked left and right on the top of the strut, which is great because I could have rearranged them in the boxes there. That won't be hard to identify. Looks like I needed just one wheel at a time, lift the car, extract a strut, put a strut on it. It'll be a little more complicated than that in practice than in theory, but not too damn bad. Looks like you've got 2 studs attached to the strut itself, and it looks like that one with the body painted is going to be a bolt that runs through, so should be able to loosen up everything up top here, except that one, before I even lift it if I felt like it. Pretty easy to do. It's what it seems like it's going to be. Of course, once we get the wheel off, we will know more. Wish me luck. It's raining and cold. I got this part to do, and then the top end tune-up, which is well within the realm of possibility and reasonability as we got an early start to it. But I am ready to start my weekend as soon as she's on the ground in Funky Town. Happy day. Time for a big sigh of relief. Heck yeah, this is going to be a whole lot less complicated to deal with than the front. So, stud and stud only require loosening from the inside. 1 bolt to loosen from the outside. 1 nut to loosen here. There is going to be some spring pressure. I may have to push things up and down with a jack to get it in there. That being said, this is a simple knock them out, put it in a rawhide situation right here. So we're just going to dive right in and get right to it. Knock this crap out of my driveway. Okay, folks, that didn't take long at all, nor did it stress me out at all. I'm so thankful for that. We got our new strut assembly installed, looking awesome, super easy to do. Got our 14 millimeter down here marked up and tightened up. Got my 19 millimeter down here marked up and tightened up. Got my marker right there on the top of that strut telling everybody that's been done. Don't be trying to sell them that next year. Up underneath here, you can see where I've mounted marked my nuts. And you can see where I marked where the bolt went through, so you can tell that's where I tightened it to. Left my sticker on here telling old Les Schwab, fuck off. This is new and fresh and good. Got this one mounted, so that's in. That's it for that. Time to sling the wheel back on this side and repeat on the other. Awesome sauce. I'm excited because it ain't even noon yet. I might have the rear end of this car done by noon. Then I can just focus on the tune-up on it. Go get something to eat. Maybe enjoy Saturday. There's that dead old stuff, which, hell, I've seen worse, but 160,000 miles out with the old. All right, there's the passenger side out in the ground. There's the hole where it goes in, and there's my seam sealer coated in Oregonianness. So we'll knock some of that off there, put on my dust mask for that. Not going to get it perfectly clean, but get the stalactites off so that a water hose can do the rest. As you can see, not too terrible to get this one done. I got that out quick, and I'm happy about it. Since your hole looks like up for the bottom. And that's what your hole look like when you ain't got no strut in it from the top. So, very simple process from here. This is freaking easy. Let's knock it out. Here in Eugene, Oregon, we don't let a little thing like rain stop us. Oh no, we have true grit. And as a result, we have got the last strut assembly installed in the matrix. See, it's marked. It's marked up top. A bunch of interior to go back in the thing. Not going to worry about that yet. Put the wheel back on, look at things. I might adjust out my steering alignment a little bit. It's visibly towed in on both sides. Not terrible, but enough that it's probably bothersome. I got to add some transmission fluid. We're going to do that and maneuver the vehicle for a second and see how we feel about things before we go on with the tune-up, which I'm hoping the rain will ease up a little bit for that portion, but pretty darn easy on this car, so not too sad about it either way. May slow down my cleanup process underneath the hood that I'm wanting to do. We shall see. But in any event, we have completed the matrix undercar is fully installed. Now it's just a matter of tweaking it, making sure nothing makes noise, making sure everything is the way it is supposed to be with the wheels back on it. So we won't melt, and that won't hurt down either. That'll just go back in cleaner. It needed to be rinsed any damn way. Great. Let's get the wheel back on the car. Let's see what we have here. Woohoo, everybody. It's 5 o'clock on Saturday, and it's just about the right time because we just got done with the last of the service on the Matrix. Did a top-end ignition tune-up on this and a clean-up of that valve cover real good with it on the car. So we put NGK spark plugs back in. Came out as Denso. It was time. They were kind of brown and old. Nothing too terribly bad. Got our new United coil packs on it. Everything is tight and marked and looking happy and pretty, so that's all good. There's still plenty of underhood cleanup that needs to be done grime-wise on this car, but we're going to address that on other services. There's still a cooling system, belt drive to take care of on this car, and brakes. Then I'm all done. Then I don't have anything else left to do. Worked myself out of it. But not the cleanest I've ever made one. It's been raining all day. I can only do so much. But that is a totally different looking engine than when we started. And, of course, since we did that much work, we did a little bit of custom work. So this may not be my final coat on this. I may hit it again today, or I may hit it on a future service. We will see how the drying goes for me. But we're trying out our Rust-Oleum Ultra Cover in Poppy Red. And I think that's going to be red and pop on top of that clean engine. Let's give her a crank up, see how she acts. I did notice this car has done a little bit of weird. When I first connect the battery, it'll start and immediately stall occasionally. It'll restart right away and do nothing else. I don't know. I'm going to do a fuel pressure check on it and a few other things. No codes associated with that. Didn't have no problem that time. 164,107 miles. No codes, everything happy. Yeah. I think she'd be bitching if it wasn't happy about it, right? Let's listen up top. Oh, listen to that smooth running little P thresher. She's happy. So there it is, folks. We have escaped the Matrix. It's ready to go. Proudly assembled right here in Eugene, Oregon with American hands and foreign components.